Hi there. Thank you for joining me on the Passionative podcast, where we talk about following your passion, creativity, and doing what you love. This is your host Sagar Mehta, and today I want to talk about how to tap into your full creative potential by creating a daily habit or routine around what you love to do. If we had our mind under our complete control, we could be creative at the drop of a hat, come up with amazing ideas on demand, and produce some of our best stuff without even blinking an eye. And we would do this no matter where or with who we were or what kind of mental state we were in. But that's not how things work, right? We tend to work in two ways. Either we work on things at the very last minute because a deadline is coming, and that is how most of our work gets done. Or we wait for something to inspire us. When the inspiration hits, we sit right down at our table, jotting away words, ideas, our visions, or the results we expect, and so on at a manic pace. Then, once that initial excitement passes and that inspiration goes away, we leave things the way they were. And if you're anything like me, you try to grab at that flow state again by deciding that you will work and create something new today. But you know it simply doesn't work out. Plus, you probably have your different interests competing for attention too, and you cannot seem to find a way to fit any of those in, let alone discipline yourself enough to work on them properly. I've noticed that if I'm not working on things that are important to me, I don't like that version of me as much. It's not like I don't feel like getting out of bed. It's just that when it's time to go back to bed, the feeling that I didn't do enough that day hits, and it's quite an unpleasant one. So, how do you go about changing this? There are a few things that I think we can learn from how we already do or don't do things. First, we like deadlines. We like someone keeping us accountable. We like the fear of having someone send us a memo or shout at us if we don't deliver. We like panic because panic gets work done. Second, we all have great ideas. When we are feeling truly inspired, we tend to have generally good ideas that can lead to great ideas over time. It's just that we are never able to stick around long enough to see them through the end once the inspiration dies out. Third, we think that we have creative spells that don't last forever and that they come about on their own from some corner of our mind that we don't know the lock code for. And once it goes back to that part of our mind, we are left out in the open uninspired. We can use what we know to work for us. It's possible to take those creative spells that we find so special and fleeting and make them something we just do by choice. It may sound very cliche to say that we are beings of infinite power, but it is not until we wield that power that we realize the truth in that statement. If we can somehow figure out a way to let our minds work for us when we want to, we can tap into that power anytime we like. And that is what being beings of infinite power means. How do you go about doing this? How can you get more done, produce stuff that you care about, and have more to share with the world? The answer is a simple one: create a process. Look at any product out there, whether it's a car or a phone or a piano or a TV, all of these go through a specific process through the assembly line. And having the assembly line means that very specific steps are taken to manufacture that product. And each product goes through that same process no matter what happens. All you have got to do is to set up your assembly line, your process, your routine to do the same thing with whatever you want to create. Whether it's code or articles or podcasts or animation or songs or poetry or anything else, you simply need to come up with a process that will enable you to do it. What's the process? The process is your daily routine, your daily habit. That time when you sit down and focus only on producing something for the day is what takes you from being just okay to being great. But you already knew that. So, what is the problem? The problem is that we never sit down to create the process to begin with. So, here is how to set up your own process to create awesome things without it looking like a huge task. The first step is to set a time. If you work at an office, it has a time when you need to be at your desk. If you go to school or college, there is a time after which you will be refused to be let into the class. Your process, your assembly line, your daily habit needs to start at a particular time each day. And you've got to set a time and duration that you will sit down to work on your art or code or writing, no matter what happens. An assembly line that can produce 2 cars in an hour and has a goal of producing 16 cars a day between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. cannot start an hour late on any day. If you want to work on something with a goal to have something to show for it and measure your progress in some way, then you've got to start at the same time every day. This is the most important part of your discipline. If you can get this right, the other parts of your process can be managed, as you will see. One thing to take care of here is that the time you set must be in your control, in your hands. I tried making my writing habit part of my work time, but that's never in my control as work varies. So I moved it to nighttime when I'm free and just before I sleep. For you, it could mean you set aside a time in the morning, even if you have to wake up 30 minutes early to make it. Another thing is, once you've set this time, there is no compromise. Unless you're sick, you must sit down and spend time working on your stuff. If you can't work on your stuff for some reason, at least be in touch with your stuff in some way so that you can keep the habit. Next, set up your place. It's easy to say you will do something at a particular time, but one of the first walls you will run into is to find the place to do it. If this was something like the gym, then you already have a place to work out at. But if you want to write or draw or paint or code, you must fix a place that you can use all by yourself. You're going to be needing it. Now, this might be hard depending on where you live, but as long as you can find a 3 by 3 feet of space where nobody would disturb you, it should work. You might have to ask people around you to not bother you when you are here. I had to do that and let my mom know. She's a darling, but moms are moms. Pretty up the place if you need to. Personally, I like to keep it really minimalist because there is no distractions that way. But you can choose whatever works for you. Something that happens on some days is that it gets super hard to work where I usually work. So on those days, I go out to a new place like a cafe or something. A library might work for you as well. Again, these are places where nobody would disturb you and the background hum of humans and things sometimes helps. It's important you work at this spot daily though, because when you're out or you're traveling, that bit of discipline will help you show up no matter where you are. You will quickly find a corner at the airport, at the hotel, at the market, at wherever, and get right down to it. Third, show up daily. You've set the time, you've set the place. Now, all you need to do is to show up. Of course, this is easier said than done. And so, let's talk about some quick ways to getting yourself to just do it. Expect some discomfort. In fact, expect all the discomfort. New habits have a way to make you feel as if you're not being your true self. Your inner voices will ask you to sleep some more, to wait some more, to start it on Monday or after that holiday that's coming up. These are all signs of the discomfort your mind feels when it is asked to do what you want it to do. It is work and the mind does not like it. When you expect it and notice it, it will be easier to fight the urge to break the habit. Next, get comfortable with sucking. Most of the time, we don't work on something because we know it is not going to be great. The voice inside us that tells us what is cool and what is not finds an incomplete poem or a half written article or a stream of consciousness audio note rather useless and a waste of time. This can mean we don't do it at all or we give up too soon. Get comfortable with sucking at what you do. Create crappy stuff today so you can create amazing stuff tomorrow. The more you try to be perfect with each article, each piece of code, each piece of whatever, the more you are making it difficult for yourself. This is where having a goal helps. If you are sitting down to write, decide you will write an article each day. It can be great, good, bad, or pathetic, but write it you will. Or you can decide you will complete one sketch and the same rules would apply. As you do this, you will start being comfortable with incomplete work, imperfect work, really, and these drafts will help you reach those ideas that you will finally find appealing. There will be days when nothing will come out. Don't be scared of them. Treasure them, in fact, because there are days your mind truly is out of stuff to say. And believe me, it has a lot of stuff to say. We just don't know it because we never try. On those days, you still need to produce something. So look for inspiration around you and work your way from there. Do everything you can to make this inevitable. Run out of excuses. Carry your tools all the time if you can, or a smaller version of them if you are traveling. Focus on keeping the habit no matter what happens or where you are. I wish I could tell you a brain hack to create world changing things out of thin air. But the truth is that all great work comes from crappy work done each day without fail. And if you really are the type who needs a kick in the backside or a boss shouting at them to keep them accountable, you can hire me. Or ask one of your friends. I'm sure they will be happy to oblige. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Passionative podcast. I'm always happy to hear from you about your passion, your struggles, and your challenges. If you want to talk to me, simply go to Passionative.co and click on the contact link. This is your host Sagar Mehta signing off. Stay awesome.